know him from The Athletic and from Fox College Football. Bruce Feldman joins us. Bruce, thanks a lot for coming on, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Good to be on with you guys.
So I come across this story last night, and it says that it's possible. I mean, a bunch of headlines. USC could go independent. Big Ten may not continue with USC and Michigan. I read the story. It seems very complex to me, but I know you, being an insider, can do it and explain it to us like we're fourth graders.
Man, I don't know if I can do that, to be honest, because what we're talking about is a lot of big terms. And what I mean by big terms, Tony Petitti is the commissioner of the Big Ten. And what we're talking about is that he's lined up an equity partner that would infuse almost $2.5 billion into the Big Ten for a big portion of the conference's media rights. But what's puzzling about all this is it's 20 years, so that takes us to 2046.
Yep.
That's a long time between now and then. There's also, I think what it gets at is so much instability, and this is people inside the Big Ten trying to protect themselves for a very unstable future. I get that. Now, if you're, like, since the time I moved out here, which is probably right when Pete Carroll got it rolling at USC,
right.
I feel like there's always been, being friends with a lot of USC people out here, there's always been some thought of, we should go independent. We don't need to be in the Pac-10 at the time of the Pac-10, right? It was like, why are we getting the same cut as Oregon State? We're driving the boat on this.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff, I think, made some sense. Eventually, obviously, they moved out. There's a big Fox deal that they and three other schools ended up doing, but USC really was leading the way on that. So to think that they would end up going, all right, well, we're just going to end up going independent because that's really our only solution. I don't know, that seems confusing to me because we don't know what that landscape's going to look like going forward for the rest of the sport.
Right.
I think what's tied to it, though, is Michigan, which is like the bluest of blue bloods of the Big Ten. They don't want any part of this either at this point. So I'm interested to see how this is going. I'd love to say I can make it simpler than that, but just the idea that Michigan may not want it, and Michigan's as much the Big Ten as anybody.
Right.
I'm interested to see how Tony Petitti and the Big Ten kind of tries to make this more palatable to them in USC.
Okay, so let me just, and I want to pivot then, but let me just ask you this. Is there, if you were to put a percentage chance on when all this is over, USC being an independent, what percentage chance would you put on it?
I don't know, 20%?
20%?
I don't even know if I would go that high. I mean, we did a big story on this subject today on The Athletic and talked to a Michigan source on this, and the line was, why would you cook the golden goose? Mm-hmm. And it's Tony's part to break up the Big Ten, and it's heading towards blowing things up. To me, that I just think more sensible people, which doesn't always happen in college sports, will say, hey, look, is this really the direction we want to go? Because it could have some really unfortunate unintended consequences.
I wanted to, obviously USC versus Iowa on Saturday at the Coliseum. I wanted to play a clip for you. This is Matt Berry from ESPN. He does a college football podcast, and Paul Feinbaum, who I'm sure you know, covers the SEC. Yes, here's a conversation. I want to get your reaction to it.
It's funny you bring up Lincoln because I think he and USC is starting to realize how easy it is to be forgotten. I mean, USC, they're, say what you want, they're in play. I mean, they're in play in this thing, but they're just not talked about. They're just forgotten out on the West Coast. And I think that's because they led the charge to do one of the dumbest things we've seen in a long time, which was kill the Pac-12. They don't belong in the Big Ten. That reads the whole thing makes zero sense, and they're paying for it now because no one gives a damn about USC.
No, and it's, I'm not going to give you the cliche that the next guy sitting next to you, college football is so much better when USC. It doesn't really matter to me if USC ever plays another football game, Matt. The bottom line is that they are forgotten about, and I'm sure Lincoln Riley is getting that memo, and he's done a pretty good job this year. And where is he going to go for attention in a town that just celebrated a World Series and is focused in on the Lakers right now?
So, Bruce, a couple of things there. First of all, The idea that first of all, where is the interest level for USC? How relevant is USC both in college football and in Los Angeles, here where you make your home?
USC is more relevant now than they were 3 months ago because they, whether they make the playoff or not, I think this has been a pretty good year for them, for the Trojans. They do have a good recruiting class lined up. And, I would kind of disagree with what they said. I mean, they're saying it from Bristol, Connecticut, and from the Northeast.
Yes, they are.
Honestly, it's like it's out of sight, out of mind as much as you want it to be, right? I mean, if USC was, and again, this is not, I don't even want to say it was like Matt and Reggie USC.
Right.
If it was the version with Mark Sanchez after where they were still really good, they're nationally relevant. And you can do that here. I just think that like they were relevant when it felt like it was Caleb and Jordan Addison and not a lot on defense, right? I kind of just would dispute that, that USC has made themselves. I think part of that is just like there's a lot of moving parts that are here with USC. Whether Lincoln's going to get them back anywhere near where they used to be, that's another story. But I do think they've taken a nice step towards that, and I thought they've had a couple of good wins. But I think that's going to come with star power, right? Mm-hmm. And like Mekhi Lemon's a guy people talk about.
Oh yeah,
because he's had a fantastic year. Honestly, King Miller's had a really good season. He's been a really cool story. If you're paying attention in college football, you know that. But I feel like ESPN can say whatever they want to say, but they're going to probably be more focused on the SEC, to be honest.
Well, I was just about to say, I mean, respectfully to Paul Feinbaum, he
hates USC, by the way.
He's also Mr. SEC.
Yeah.
I mean, right. He's on the SEC network every day. He's carrying that show for 3 hours. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Paul, but it's almost like a different sport to him than that.
Culture,
I mean, are they talking about Oregon that much? I would imagine they're probably not.
Right. Well, that's okay. So that goes back to the original point that Matt Berry made, which was this killing the Pac-12 a good idea? I know it's already happened, right? And we're not going back. But would USC somehow be more relevant if there was still a Pac-12, or are they better off in the Big Ten?
If USC is really good, it doesn't matter what league they're going to be in. I really believe that, because back when I first moved out here, you had Jeff Tedford, Hal Cal, it was Aaron Rodgers. They had a couple of, good teams, and there was a year where UCLA was good. But that was before Oregon blew up. Like, it was basically USC carrying everything on the West Coast, right? And if USC is really good, I think that, and if they got alignment, and which it feels like they have a little more alignment now than they certainly did a few years ago, then they're capable. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, they're in a conference, they're in a different conference now. Yeah, there's going to be challenges with travel. They made that move. I don't know how viable the version of the Pac-12 was with the leadership it had before was. Now, full disclosure, I work at Fox. Fox is very involved in the Big Ten. Sure. So I'll say it as bluntly as I can. But again, just anybody who, you don't even have to be a person who went to USC or grew up as a USC fan. If you're paying attention and you've seen what it is, USC is one of those few programs that they can pretty much be as good as they want to be, because they have an inherent pull and they have longtime fans. It doesn't mean that there's not competing interests here. I mean, Luka's on the Lakers. Yeah, people pay attention.
Shohei's on the Dodgers.
Exactly. The Chargers are an interesting team. The Rams that's not what it was 20 years ago in terms of the LA sports thing. But there's enough people here, and I'm not saying you have to get Reggie Bush back here, but if you get star players. And they've had a bunch even, in the last 10 years, whether it's Amon-Ra or you can go down the list of really good players who played in the NFL. They get that going again, and it feels like they're starting, like I said, Mekhi Lemon's been fantastic.
He's been amazing.
I think there's enough reason for some optimism.
I mean, when the Pac-12 was alive, certainly down the ending stretches of it, I know we used to talk about it all the time. Nobody pays any attention to us anyway.
Yeah, nobody paid attention to the Pac-12 as it was.
Nobody gives the Pac-12 respect. There's the East Coast and SEC bias. I think what those guys may be talking about is kind of the culture of college football change. Like, it fits into the Big Ten culture, and therefore they don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, but I mean, all year long, I've been all over this, and I think Saturday is a playoff elimination game for USC. I mean, they are in a really meaningful football game on Saturday.
If SC's really good, they're going to be relevant. I mean,
I think also what you kind of got to factor into is USC's been a little bit of 2 steps forward, 1 step back this year. Right. So, they have a good game, and then they go on the road and they kind of lay an egg against Illinois. And then they have a good win, against Michigan at home, and then they go kind of lay another egg.
Yep.
I think, beating Nebraska, even with a banged up Dylan Raiola, it's still, it was a road win.
Sure.
And that's something to be said. Now, if they can build off that, not just with Iowa, but then have another, a much, probably their biggest win in a few years, then all of a sudden I think we're talking about USC in a much different light. Like right now, the people who are getting most of the oxygen on the West Coast football is Oregon. And credit to them, Dan Lanning, they had a really strong year last year, and I think that's part of why. But I wouldn't buy the whole out of sight, out of mind now thing.
So obviously USC, one of the country's most productive offenses. They lead the whole FBS in total yards. Iowa, top 5 scoring defense. They're allowing just 14.5 points per game. Who do you like on Saturday, especially given the fact that they are expecting 2 inches of rain on Saturday at the Coliseum?
Yeah, that's a wrinkle in this. The one thing that sticks out in my mind is the last time that Iowa came out here to the West Coast, they played UCLA. It started out pretty good for Iowa, and then UCLA took it to them. I don't know if that's just, like it's a long road trip on the West Coast, but this USC team is better than that UCLA team. And I'm not saying that Iowa's not a little better than they were last year, because I think they are, but they're still really one-dimensional. I mean, they don't throw the ball particularly well. You saw that last week, albeit in bad conditions. Yeah, this probably suits them, but if I was Lincoln Riley, I would be, hey, this is a chance to show a lot of people that we are a physical team. To me, this is like a great opportunity. Whether they end up beating Oregon or whether they're making the playoff, I think this is the game as much as anything else on their schedule where they can kind of reset the narrative, right? They can play physical football. Whether they end up at 9-3 and don't make the playoff, but they win this game, I think that's a big building block for them going forward.
Yeah.
Because I think it shuts up a lot of people. It doesn't shut them all up, but I think it will. I think it will win over a bunch of people who are still on the fence about what's going on there.
All right. Hey, Bruce, awesome to get you on, man. Appreciate you taking the time, jumping on the YouTube, all that stuff. Thank you very much, and have a good weekend. We'll watch for you on Saturday.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Stay dry.
All right. There you go. There is Bruce Feldman. Yes, that is going to be an issue, staying dry at the Coliseum on Saturday.
Even Bruce is recommending you not go to the game.
Go to the game, exactly. Coming up next for you, we'll get Ryan Abraham's take on Saturday's game. And again, I think USC, a win on Saturday, sets up the biggest game of Lincoln Riley's USC career next Saturday at Oregon. But you got to do this one first. And we'll get to Ryan Abraham from USCFootball.com. Coming up next, Mason in Ireland. Andy's in for John, 710 ESPN.
Your Lakers, your season,